Greetings. Today, as we digitally launch the Two and a Front War publication, we gather not just to celebrate a significant milestone of Indic Researchers Forum, but also to commemorate Vijay Diwas, a day of immense pride and reflection of Bharat. Vijay Diwas is not just a remembrance of victory, it's a testament to the resilience and the valor of a nation. It's a day that reinforces our commitment to safeguarding India against all adversaries. As we delve into the insights of Two and a Front publication, we are reminded of the foresightness of the late General Bipin Rawat. His concept of the war eloquently captures multifaceted security challenges India faces both externally and internally. IRF, since its inception, has been at forefront of redefining research and geopolitics and security through a civilizational perspective. Our organization embodies the spirit of collaboration, bringing together scholars and experts to strategize on India's geopolitical interests and security needs. In a world witnessing shifting global dynamics, increased conflicts, and technological transformations, our forum adopts a realist approach to address these complexities. We are committed to protecting our people and countering adversaries with a strategic foresight and fostering partnerships to uphold our strategic interests. As we move forward, let's embrace the wisdom within these pages to fortify our nation's security and continuous building approach with a vision of strength, unity, and prosperity. Thank you. On this note, it is my great honor to introduce the session chair, Commodore Professor Srikant Deshmukh, a distinguished veteran of the Indian Navy. Commodore Deshmukh has served our nation with distinctive 32 years, bringing with him a wealth of experience, expertise in both marine and aviation sectors. His education journey is as impressive as his services. He holds a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, an MSc in defense science, and PGDM, and he was also a gold medalist. Commodore Deshmukh's career in Navy is marked by specialization in the maintenance of fighter aircrafts and anti-submarine warfare helicopters. He has served on board various ships and aircraft carriers, holding critical operations and administrative appointments, including Principal Director at Naval Headquarters and Commodore Superintendent Naval Aircraft Yard. Post-retirement, Commodore Deshmukh continued to contribute significantly to the defense sector, working with the Tata Groups and later with the Sun Group's aerospace and defense verticals as Senior Vice President. His current endeavors in Pune involving guiding SMEs in regional projects including Atmanirbhar Bharat policy in collaborating with global OEMs. His passion for education has led him to work with Manipal Institute of Technology and Manipal Academy for Higher Education as an adjunct faculty. A prolific writer, his insights on defense, technical, and geopolitical matters have been widely published and recognized. He is also a life member of the Aeronautical Society of India. Sir currently is also the member of Senior Advisory Board member of Indic Researchers Forum. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Satya, for your kind words. General Bhatia, sir, Dr. Srinivasan, Yashash Arya, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to convey my compliments to Indic for organizing this webinar cum publication launch event. It is indeed an honor to chair this session graced by the eminent personalities. The issue of two and a half front war was brought to fore by late General Rawat. This issue has been a matter of concern not only for the government but also for the military and the strategic planners. With China's growing ambitions in the region, both Indo-Pacific and Indian Ocean, possibility of Bharat being forced to confront two and a half front war is becoming stronger. India needs to be fully prepared to tackle this problem. I'm sure General Bhatia sir will enlighten us on this subject when he speaks to us. It's also a matter of fact, China is becoming more and more belligerent day by day. Its intentions of the land grab by claiming Ladakh and the Northeast territories as China's makes their intentions absolutely clear. Its nefarious designs, very well crafted with a view to keep Bharat on the tenterhooks and thwart our growth. We are fortunate to have General Chavan, who will be joining us a little later, to speak to us on this issue of China and the Northeast connection. It is a sad story that in matters of research, as India, we lack very badly. We are somehow not serious about the security matters and the research on that topic. More often than not, we have been caught unawares on the security front, be it Kargil, be it Galwan Valley, or maybe the gas canisters entering our parliament. We need to become more concise about the security matters, and the quality research in this area is of critical importance for our nation. It's indeed a pleasure for us to have Dr. Srinivasan to speak to us on this topic of the research and its connections with the nation's security. This all has become feasible because of Indic's initiative and the Herculean efforts of Mr. Arya, who is the founder of Indic Researchers Forum. He has strived to make Indic a forum to watch for with the quality outputs. Indic mainly focuses on two and a half front war, Pashtunistan issues, Pakistan, maritime issues, and many other contemporary issues of importance for the nation. I'm happy that Mr. Arya is also here to walk us through the journey of Indic Researchers Forum and also explain the rationale for the publication of the two and a half front war, which would be launched after his presentation during the program. With his brief opening remarks, I would now like to invite General Bhatia to speak to us on the two and a half front war. Before handing over a floor to him, I would like to introduce him briefly. General Sir is a very decorated veteran with 40 years of distinguished service in the Army as Director General Military Operations, DGMO, which is one of the most important directorate in our Army headquarters. As DGMO, he was directly responsible for talks with his counterpart in Pakistan to ensure sustained ceasefire, a first of its kind, and was much appreciated by the national polity. His advisory skills in the strategic area have played an important role in designing and implementing numerous policies for Indian Army. He was instrumental in giving a much needed focus to capability development and the capacity enhancement along our northern borders and effective management of the line of control LAC and LC. General Bhatia has also served as the director St. George. He is also the senior advisory board member for Indic Researchers Forum. Sir, it is indeed an honor for me to request you to kindly address us on the issue of the two and a half front war. Thank you so much, sir. Floor is yours.
Jai Hind, and thank you so much, Commodore Deshmukh, for this introduction and for the opening remarks. Indeed honored, grateful to you. Jan Shokin Chauhan, Commodore Deshmukh, Dr. Srinivasan, Yasaz, my friends from the Indic Research Foundation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, and thank you for this great honor of giving me to write the foreword for this excellent book. Two and a half front war, as we all know, is a reality. It is a current and present danger. But let me go back into a little bit of history, and I'd like to put in perspective. It is not that China threat was not there. China threat has always been there, especially 62 onwards, and we have been aware of the China threat. But however, we pushed it to the background because our immediate neighbor in the West, a mischievous neighbor, I would say, Pakistan, was our primary concern because of the various wars we fought from 47, 48, 65, 71, 99, and also the proxy war started off in, as I put the date as 7th of December 1989, right? And so that was the primary concern because Pakistan's proxy war during the 1,000 cuts. So our focus was always the Western sector. Having said that, today at 1971 war, it's a great day, a great occasion. What a great day you've chosen, Yashash. Thank you very much. We liberated a I would say divided, liberated Bangladesh with the help of Mukti Jodhas. We should give them credit. The Mukti Bahini, they were an integral part of this operation. And taking a little time over the 71 operation, one of the reasons why 71 operation for the 71 war was in December was to ensure that China cannot intervene. Right. So when I say two and a half front war, we go back to 1971 in March, because we knew the passes would close in November, December, and that is the time when China would. The Pakistan army was told, "You don't worry about India. We'll have the yellow army coming from the north and the white army coming from the oceans. And what can the Indian army do? So carry on." So that is how Operation Searchlight, which was launched on 25th of March 1971, with great impunity. The Pakistan army never catered for an Indian. They did cater for, but they never thought that India would actually go and divide a nation like Pakistan. And that is why when you saw two-front war, the realization of the two-front war has always been there. So we should know that. 71 war is a great study. It's a study on integration. We talk about integration today, and General Rawat, God bless his soul, he was given the task of integrating the theater commands, integrating the three services. But 71 war is an excellent study on integration jointness with the army, the navy, the air force, and the Mukti Bahini. Right? They worked as one. The synergy, the energy, and the resource utilization is absolutely, a study in itself, if you want to say that. India has been leading. If you look at Dhaka, it has got massive rivers. The Jamuna is there, Padma is there. Which is the other one, Shagin? Oh my God, I'm getting old. The Yamuna, Padma, and there's one more. I've forgotten the name right now. Right. So the three rivers had to be crossed, and December is not easy to cross the river. The water is there, and we were only given 14 days by the USSR that time, because that is what they could hold
Meghna
on.
River, sir.
Meghna, my fault. How can I forget Meghna? Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So, we given 14 days by the Soviet Union. After that, they did not hold on. So it was just about 14 days we had, and 13 days we went and captured Dhaka. So that was a great operation. Coming back to two and a half front war. Like I said, it was always there. It is not that two front was not known to us. The half was added later. But actually, if you look at it in end December, and let me, it's not contradicting. It's just trying to set the record right. In end December 2009. General Deepak Kapoor was the chief of the army staff, and he was the first one to go public saying that we face a two-front and two-and-a-half-front war. Right? And the reasons, I suppose, for that, I'm not really privy to that, because I was not in the military operations directorate. But the fact is that we were given a sanction to raise two divisions for the China front. Right? So, and this was after an exercise we did. Earlier on, we used to always, and General Shokin Chauhan bear me out, we used to always, in a conflict scenario, we used to always war game moving forces from the east to the west. And 2009 was the first time when you war game moving forces from the west to the east. Right? So we got to carry out a strategic balance. So when you talk about two and a half front war, half I will leave aside because half is internal, and actually, given our fissures, given our frictions, given our fault lines, every nation tried to make use of it. Both China and Pakistan, and we manage the half front very, very well. We were one of the few nations who resolved the Mizo insurgency in 1985. Right, there was a second insurgency to resolve after the Malay insurgency. Similarly, the Punjab militancy. We don't give credit to ourselves for a lot of things, and the resolution is political, not military. Military only gives a platform for resolution. It's the political resolution is required. Right? Even J&K terrorism today, I think it is subcritical. Right. If you look at the figures post 2019, it is subcritical. Coming back to this two front. Now, when you talk of China and Pakistan, there's one key certainty, and that key certainty is if India and China were to have a conflict, Pakistan would definitely join, and there will be a second front. However, the key uncertainty is if Pakistan and India were to conflict, China may or may not join. So every nation has to look after its national interests. And I strongly feel that in May 2020, what China did is forward deployment of institutions in Eastern Ladakh. I think in the long run, or even in the near to mid-term, it was a Himalayan blunder. And China realized that it is looking for a facing exit. Why? Because we had a strategic resolve, which China did not expect. And China, at the emerging world order, wants to challenge the US for a bipolar world. And if it is going to challenge the US for a bipolar world, it cannot afford an anti-India, anti-China India, right? It would prefer a neutral India. But what it has done is it has driven India into the fold of the US, and the Commander Deshmukh, the expert on the Indo-Pacific, and what's happened to Quad, Indo-Pacific, and all these are groupings. These are very good groupings. The convergence of interests. The congress of interests out there. So that is what China has done, and China view this. It's a violent event on the part of China. But the fact remains, the threat has not gone out anywhere. The threat remains. We are strong enough, and we can meet and mitigate the threat. However, we want to invest in defense preparedness. The underlying fact is, what are the drivers and triggers for a conflict? And I think one driver for conflict is a weak India. If you are militarily weak, if you are economically weak, if you are politically weak, you are given opportunity to your adversaries to go to the logical conclusion and wage a war against you. Right? I don't think that China will go to war with India or the LAC. It is not. It is not going to happen because we are very strong there. And China realizes that. In high altitude and super high altitudes, you need a ratio 1:12. We have an advantage of the Air Force. They have an advantage of missiles. It's fine. We're a nuclear nation also. Right? But if we're not prepared, and that is where, let me be very, very blunt about things. We, as a nation today, as armed forces today, are carrying out too many reforms without thinking through. Okay, we should understand everything. I'm not criticizing the hierarchy. They're very good. There are a lot of good things happening. A lot of good things. But each reform which you carry out has to have a transition management, because we go to present relevant and future ready. Only future ready will not be good enough, right? And this is a forum of intellectuals. I've read the journal. Each article, I think, is absolutely well researched, so very well written. So what we say out here remains here, right? But the fact is that please understand that we have to be prepared for war to ensure peace. We don't have to fight wars. We are here to ensure peace. Our national aim is to ensure peace, stability, and economic development. We have to look out for the well-being of 1.4 billion people. So I'm not an army officer or a veteran soldier trying to speak war. I'm only trying to say how to ensure peace for progress, peace for prosperity. So 2.5 front is a reality, and we got to thank China for what it did in 2020, because it is a wake-up call for us. We did carry out strategic rebalancing. We have given enough push to infrastructure development, enough of it. But to say that the gap has reduced, asymmetry still remains in the conflict of national power. Please understand that. As the CNP is concerned, there is an asymmetry which we need strategies, or we need to strategize to reduce asymmetry. And in this, I'll just take another minute and finish all thereafter. I think a good strategy is what I call a 4D strategy. Defend the line of action control. And that also means positioning your troops, exploiting technology, infrastructure, getting your systems and structures right, getting the strategy rebalancing done. We have an advantage on the altitudes because we have an experience which China does not have, right? We have an experienced armed forces, the Army especially, Air Force too. We have a naval arm, which is the second part. Dominate the oceans. There are 8 choke points, and Commander Deshmukh will bear me out. You dominate them because that is China's strategic vulnerability, strategic concern of China. Right? So domination of that is going to leverage or restrain China from doing anything more than what's doing. We have to deter China's aggressive behavior. Right? The third D is depth diplomacy. And in depth diplomacy, bind to balance with nations where you have convergence of interests, like the Quad and the Indo-Pacific. And the fourth is equally important, and that is deny space to China in the neighborhood, whether it's Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, like. So that is how we have to take care of China. As Pakistan is concerned, if we take care of China, Pakistan will remain restrained. And fortunately, after the strikes post Uri, the surgical strikes and Balakot, we have not seen terrorist attacks outside of J&K. Right? And the violence level is reduced. The problem today, J&K, I don't think it's terrorism anymore. The problem is the drugs. Major problem of drugs. So when you talk about 2.5 front war, we'll have to look internally and we'll have to look externally. But if you look externally more, internally sort it out. We are quite good at it. Our Central Armed Police Forces are doing a great job in the LWE area. Of course, Manipur remains sensitive, and then Shogun Chuan is given the interview the roadmap ahead. I hope and I wish, I pray and I dream that the roadmap is followed and we have peace, reconciliation in Manipur, because Manipur can be, really dangerous out there. So with this, I will finish off, and I will say thank you very much to IRF. It's been always a pleasure to be on your platform. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. I've spoken from whatever little experience I have, and I look forward to listening to the speakers. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, on your illustrated views which you have presented to us. First of all, sir, the point which you brought out, that when you introduce the changes, we really need to think through before introducing the drastic changes, because if the change management is not done properly, the results of that could be disastrous. And it's a very important point which you have brought out, sir. Secondly, is the Ds which you have specified. Yes, they are pretty important for us and we need to focus on them. The one issue on the management of the terrorism, so as you very brought out rightly, we have been able to put it under our thumb so far. But the issue which is bothering me now, sir, at the most opportune time, countries like Canada accusing India of the extrajudicial killings, and USA joining the bandwagon and putting across the issues which have got a strong potential to entice the undesired element in our own country. And I think probably we'll need to be concise about it. So that half front also, sir, I feel that we need to be concise of that and keep our efforts on so that we are capable of fighting the two fronts, as you have put it very rightly, sir. Once again, thank you so much for your candid views, sir. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Welcome, General John, sir. It's absolutely an honor to have you on with us today to speak to us on the issue of China. China has been really a country which has always managed to keep us on the tenterhooks. And come what may, we have not been able to really grasp the problem and initiate the strategic response to the China, wherein China would feel a deterrence out of the strategy which we have put across. You have rightly chosen the area, sir. The Northeast is an important area for us. China today claims Ladakh like theirs, and they go across, including Doklam is going to be theirs as they feel, and they'll claim everything into the Northeast. It's a very dangerous strategy and the dangerous game which they are playing. And we as Indians need to understand very much, sir. I appreciate that India has started focusing onto the northeastern region more than what we used to do about a decade ago. However, sir, I personally feel there is a lot more needs to be done. And we are very eager to listen from you what China could do in that region and what as India we need to do to protect that and protect our national interest. Before inviting you for the talk, sir, give me the pleasure of introducing you to the forum. General Shokin Chauhan was the chairman of the Ceasefire Monitoring Group in August 2018. He was the Director General of Assam Rifles, India's oldest and the largest paramilitary force. He has held several key appointments during his long career in the army. He has served at apex level in the Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Home, counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, border guarding, and human resource management. He also has vast experience in military diplomacy since he was the defense attaché in the Indian embassy in Nepal for 3.5 years. He regularly contributes articles and columns in various scholarly magazines and is a constant invitee, a participant at seminars, leadership forums, including IDSA, Defense Services Staff College, Army War College, Officer Training Academy, et al. It's our indeed a fortune, sir, that you are here to guide us today and explain to us China's war, rather plans for the northeast region of India. Thank you so much, sir. Floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
In all whenever you look at the map, and General Bhatia has so wonderfully drawn the map to us of this 2.5 front war, what is most important is that we have one front sorted out. We have the front of Pakistan sorted out. We have enough forces. I myself commanded one corps. We are capable of immense deterrence and immense devastation on Pakistan in case it was to carry out any such kind of problem or any kind of adventurism on India. The second front is the Chinese front, and of course the half front is our own homegrown insurgents and terrorists who dot our country either in the northeast or in Kashmir, or even the internal Naxalism, who will eventually force us to deploy more forces, and therefore in case China was to go to war with us, Pakistan would definitely join. But in case Pakistan would go to war with us, China may or may not join. Exactly, I agree entirely with General Bhatia. But what is surprising is, and that's something that we've spoken on this many times, is that the front of the northeast, there are two different fronts here. One, the eastern front, which deals with the line of actual control with China. That is well protected by the Eastern Army. But if we go back to history, and it's important because history gives us lessons which, if we forget, those lessons will be repeated to us again. Just let's go back to the Second World War and see how the Japanese army entered India from Burma. And amazingly, if you just see the Japanese campaign, and I have studied it deeply in my recent, I'm writing, I've got the Chair of Excellence with the USI, the Field Marshal Karyappa Chair of Excellence, and that I'm doing a study on the Northeast. And what's surprising is that when we look at the Japanese campaign and we look how quickly Japan rolled in from took Thailand, took Singapore, and very quickly entered Burma, and from Burma started moving its forces further west from Burma to Manipur, and then finally to Nagaland, where we finally stopped them at the Battle of Kohima. And every time when you look at it, and you even look at now, because I was there as the chairman of the ceasefire monitoring group, before that I was the DG Assam Rifles after commanding one corps, I realized our vulnerabilities that exist on that border. We are not deployed for defense of the Indo-Myanmar border. Even today, and General Bhatia will testify to that when he was the DGMO, the MHA continuously wanted to take over the Indo-Myanmar border, saying that it is a settled border and the army or the Assam Rifles has no business to be there. And the only deterrence that we stopped them from taking it over from us and taking Assam Rifles from us was the fact that we said that Assam Rifles is a paramilitary force. And with the paramilitary force, it fights shoulder to shoulder with the army, and it will help the army in any kind of war with China. And that's the only reason what Defense Ministry could give to the MHA, so that they didn't take over the Indo-Myanmar border. But the Indo-Myanmar border is absolutely even today, not we have not deployed to protect ourselves against any kind of attack or any kind of war or any kind of movement by China from that side. Uh, uh, Further, let's trace the movement of the Chinese along from Yunnan, which is the northeastern tip of China. From Yunnan, as it comes south, you go through Burma, you go through the Shan state, and today, if you know that Shan state is at war with the Myanmar government, then you come into the Chin state, which again is at war with the Myanmar government. And from the Chin state, you enter Manipur. The entry into Manipur is dotted by insurgent groups that are fighting us also. I am certain that if China wanted, she could move her forces through the Shan state, through the Chin state, through a settlement with the Shan the National Army and the Chin National Army or the Chin National Front, and come into India through a great amount of help given to it by these insurgent groups. And if it was to come into the area of More, there is simply nothing that stops a movement of forces into Manipur and further from there southwards, northwards toward Nagaland and towards the plains of Dimapur. So when you look at these issues, it becomes absolutely important that we sort out the problems of the insurgency in the Northeast. We must have the insurgents in a peace situation with us. The insurgents must think of being a part of India. They must fight for us and not against us. And for that, we need to urgently relook at the Northeast. As General Bhatia said, why are we allowing Manipur to go the way it is? Why have we allowed the Maitis and the Kukis to continue this fight? Why have we allowed this divide? It helps nobody. The Kukis dominate the movement, the entry into India from Burma. A clear study. The Kukis are the Chins. They are cousins of the Chins, and they are Chins, in fact. And they come from the Zomi tribe or the Chinzo tribe. The Chinzo tribe are part of the Chin state, and the Chins are fighting the Myanmar army, and they are all Chins. So the Kukis are all Chins. And you go further into the northeast and you come to Mizoram, all Mizos are also part of the Chinzo tribes. You are creating for yourself the greatest of vulnerability in an area where we have no force left. If you see today, and I hope that this is this is an air. Will not be talked about. If you see today, all our entire forces are on the line of actual control with China. The entire Eastern Command is deployed. Ever since the problem that happened in Galwan, Eastern Army has been deployed along the line of actual control. And when the Eastern Army was deployed, it had to move all its forces out of the counterinsurgency areas. That means 57 Division and all the other divisions have moved out to the line of actual control to actually defend us against China, against an threat, a conventional threat from China. The Assam Rifles, which has 46 battalions, 21 of these battalions were supposed to be deployed on counter insurgency roles, and 25 of these battalions were to be deployed along the Indo-Myanmar border. Because of the Kuki Manipur problem, and because the fact that we are simply not solving this insurgency, we have an issue today that actually we have less than 15 battalions deployed in the Indo-Myanmar border. And if you look at that line, Each battalion is looking after 100 kilometers, which is an impossibility for any unit to actually defend. 100 kilometers means every company has a distance of 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 kilometers to look at, because it is 4 companies up and 2 companies have to be behind to protect itself. So we are not in a position to help ourselves from any kind of conventional threat coming in from the northeast. And the Burmese campaign will tell us that it is an exceedingly easy situation for the Chinese to come in. The roads are there. We ourselves are rebuilt the Stillwell Road with very little effort. And Chinese are master builders at roads. With very little effort, the Stillwell Road can be created to class 60 road. And all the bridges, all the culverts that need to be developed can be developed in less than 15 days. And from Burma, when you bring in large forces, there is nothing to stop you. And once again, like I said, if you are at war with the Chins, which we are today, because the Manipur state is at war with the Kukis, and the Kukis are Chins. And anybody will tell you in the Northeast that the tribes matter more than nationalism. I hope you agree with me on that. That it is tribal law, it is tribal loyalties and not nationalism that deals with every situation there. And when you have a situation like this, and you have a situation where you are unable to control your own population has been divided, I see no reason why the Chins and the Shans will not help the Chinese in any kind in creating some kind of problem here. The only people that we have with us are the NSC and IM, which is today the most powerful insurgent. But it is from India. It's an Indian insurgent group. Though, of course, it has more than 20, 25 camps in Burma. But the NSC and IM too, we have been unable to bring to a final peace accord. The balance of the 4 Naga insurgent groups don't matter. We have to start understanding that all these vulnerabilities that exist along our northeastern border must be closed. It is a simple thing, and Channel Bharti has been the DGMO, I've been GOC1 Co. All vulnerabilities are studied by us, and every vulnerability is then planned for and planned to be eliminated before we go into any kind of operation. Am I right, Channel Bharti, sir? And any military study will tell you the kind of vulnerabilities that exist, and we are simply doing nothing about it. With 21 battalions or 15 battalions of the Assam Rifles, the balance fighting in the hinterland, you simply cannot protect yourself. And let me also tell you that having been in the Northeast, there is not a single police station in Manipur, not a single police station in Nagaland that can actually protect itself. No police station can exist without the shadow of the Assam Rifles being there. No matter who says anything to you, they simply do not have the survivability to prevent themselves from being attacked by the insurgents. Maybe it is the lack of training, maybe it is the lack of motivation, maybe it's the lack of leadership, but no police, no state force has the capability. Recently, you must have read in the news or heard in the news how the Assam Rifles had to actually evacuate a company of the Manipur Rifles because they could not help themselves when they were attacked by the Kukis. Today, there are 3 things that exist there, and one has to just look at the situation, is that there is no dearth of weapons with the Kukis and the Maitis. That's the first issue. Secondly, there is no dearth of people willing to join the Kuki cause. Because, as I said, the state that we border with Myanmar is the Chin state, which are all Kukis. So why have we allowed ourselves to become enemies of the Kukis? Why have we allowed ourselves to become enemies of the Chins? And if we continue this, then we will have another problem in Mizoram, and because the Mizos are all Chins. And I remember as DG Assam Rifles, I went to meet Mr. Lal Thanaula, to talk to him about why he was allowing the Chin refugees into Mizoram. Even today, there are more than a lakh Chin refugees in Mizoram. And Mr. Lalthanaula, who was the previous chief minister, told me, he said, "Sir, we are Chins, and these are our brothers, and nothing, no lion can ever stop me from helping my brothers." Today, the Zomi party, which has today the ZMP party, which has won the elections in Mizoram, has won based on the fact that they are first Chins. They are very clearly saying that we are Chins and we will help the Chins. There's, that is a very clear lesson to us that we must understand tribal issues in the Northeast. And unless we understand these issues, we are going to create for ourselves, like I said, history. If we don't understand from history, we're going to re-look at history. We brought Mizoram to peace through power sharing situation. And the same thing will happen again if we allow the Chins and the Kukis and the Maitis and the state helping the Maitis. No state, every state must be absolutely, neutral and to help the population and not help a single, single group. So the vulnerability of this half front that exists might prove to be a very large vulnerability. We can deal with Pakistan today, and as General Bhatia said, we can deal with China too along the LAC, but we cannot deal internally. And no matter what we do, unfortunately, the Central Armed Police Forces are not picking up because in their mind, they seem to think that their job is just policing. So, thank you very much again, Yashat, Arya. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all and to allow me to bare my heart, because I continuously start feeling so sad that despite all of us who have lived and who have worked in the Northeast, my father too was in the Northeast. He was in the army, and we were there. So it's been 2 generations of our family having fought there to have brought that beautiful land to peace. And unfortunately, we keep making missteps because we want to govern from Delhi without understanding that Delhi cannot govern the Northeast. We are too different there, and we must understand these differences. And we must not push these these tribes away from us. We should bring them towards us. It requires diplomacy, sir. It requires a lot of intellect. It requires a lot of study. It requires knowledge. It requires understanding of this particular subject, our vulnerabilities. In fact, Yashash, one of the things that we should have done was to have talked of the vulnerabilities of India. When you talk about 2.5 front war, the first issue is talk of your vulnerabilities. It is through this understanding of our vulnerabilities that we will be able to cover the gaps. Thank you once again, sir, for this, for allowing me this time to talk to you all, and thank you for indulging me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, General Sir. It has been a very candid talk. And as we say, sir, sometimes somebody has to take the courage and bell the cat, as we say. Your words have actually done that, sir. Unfortunately, sir, in our politics, I'm not talking about politics as such, when the nation perpetually remains in election mode, our attention gets diverted from the real problems which you have spelled out, the vulnerabilities. And as you put it rightly, sir, we have to trust the people who are actually on the ground, the governments who are on the ground. What are their real problems, what they're facing? And yes, from the center, we could be the guiding force, but the foot soldiers, as we say, should be given their due to deal with the inner problems and sort them out. And sir, if we do not do that, as you put it very rightly, China will take advantages of this in a big manner, where once again, I hope, very sincerely hope that we won't found napping like happened in Galwan Valley. Thank you so much, sir, for focusing our attention. And sir, all of us need to make an effort that we need to tell the planners, both military and the strategic, that the experts like you should be on the planning side, should be onto the side who make the decisions. Time has come for that to integrate our knowledge, our experience with the policymakers, sir. The politics and the expertise has to go together now, sir. We sincerely hope with your guidance, we'll soon see that dawn into our countries. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's now my utmost pleasure to welcome my friend, philosopher, guide, mentor, who has brought me where I stand today. From a naval officer, he has made me into a researcher who at least understands the iota of what the research means, what Indo-Pacific means, and what Indian Ocean region means for India. So my gratitude to you for bringing me to this forum. So as I said in my opening remarks, India very, very badly lacks in the research mentality. We just take pleasure in scratching the surface without actually going into the causes. The point which has been brought up by General Chauhan so clearly that so many problems are there, but nobody is interested in doing the research and bringing it to the fore. Therefore, sir, your topic that how the quality research and the security of country dovetail together will be coming out of your talk. We are indeed honored to have you on this particular forum, sir. Before I request you to begin your talk, I hope you'll give me the pleasure of introducing you for the audience. Group Captain Dr. Srinivasan has served in the Indian Air Force for 32 years and retired in 2018. He holds an MSW, LLB, and a PG diploma in International Maritime Law and PhD from Pondicherry University in Political Sociology. He is also SATS alumni of ICRC. He is an internationally published author with 13 book chapters and number of conference papers on governance, regionalism, political economy, women, and armed conflicts, etc. He has authored 2 books, Peking at Peking, a book on China, and a book on the research writing, a complete guide. Apart from these, he has published 4 books as edited volumes on India-Mongolia relations, Africa, Asian geopolitics and borders. He is also co-edited the Handbook of South Asia, which was published by Routledge. He is also a senior fellow in Defense Research and Studies, which is a think tank on strategic affairs. He was conferred with Vishishta Seva Medal for his distinguished services of high order by the Honorable President of India. Sir, with your acumen and your expertise in the research and your noble initiative of mentoring the research students to come up and take up the research for our security issues, we are indeed honored to have you to speak to us on the research and its dovetailing effect onto the India's security. So before you begin your talk, I will request the indulgence from General Sir and Yashas. Yashas, I have got one of my good friends with whom I worked with in Indian Navy, a person who really gave us the capability of doing the overhauls of high-powered gas turbine engines, Mr. Stephen Sage. He is a UK citizen. He is currently stationed in the United Kingdom, but at heart, he is more Indian than a UK citizen. I worked with him. It has been my honor. Steve, a very warm welcome to you, and we all are honored by your presence today. Thank you so very much. Srinivasan, sir, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, sir. Quite a generous introduction. I don't know how much of it I really deserve, but it's been a privilege and an honor to meet General Bhatia and General Chauhan today. And I keep following them on various social media handles. And to some extent, I interact, but this pleasure of meeting is invaluable, sir. And to Comrade Deshmukh, in any case, is a long-standing friend and a senior, of course. To Yashas Arya, has always been a good youngster coming out with some very good initiatives. I feel happy to be part of this thing. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I do have a small presentation, sir, if you permit me. Sir, I hope the screen is visible.
Oh, yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir, yes.
Thank you so much. Yashas specifically mentioned that I must talk about research and national security. And therefore, I was in a state of little bit of puzzle because research as a methodology, as a subject is different. But then national security warrants that whatever opinions, whatever decisions, and whatever policies and programs that we come up in whatever level of the decision-making apparatus, whether it is inside the military or in the government itself, at the highest CCPA level kind of a body or PMO level body, the inputs that are given for making such decisions have to be based on impartial research. And I'm very fond of saying this, and all my interns know this dialogue, that a researcher, therefore, should be guided only by one single factor: objectivity. There is no place in research for emotions. There is no place in research for feelings like patriotism or commitment to the nation or all those things. Research has to be absolutely objective. That is the only thing which I would like to say about research. The General Bhatia sir, Chauhan sir actually gave me a cue. He talked about learning from history. And I think I will start with a little bit of history, just to give a brief, this thing of how three nations have gone about building themselves into what they are today. The flags are here, everybody knows which are these nations. How they have gone about building themselves into what they are today. There is only one single factor, if I may put it in a kind of a synoptic, a kind of a summary, one single factor that has led them to become what they have become. That is research. Just to give you, research means acquiring knowledge as well as, obviously, applying it. On the 6th of April 1868, Emperor Meiji of Japan came out with what we call today, in historically it is known as the Charter Oath. Every Japanese citizen was required to take that oath. And we all know that Japanese society idolizes their emperor. Okay, he is the first and the last of everything in Japan, even today. And in 1868, Meiji's orders were meticulously followed, and all the Japanese citizens took one set of 5 oaths, which is called as the Charter Oath. Number 5, the 5th oath, is very important because that is the one thing which helped Japan to become what it has become today. Number 5 of the oath reads, knowledge shall be sought throughout the world in order to promote the welfare of the empire. Please note 2 words which are very important. It shall be sought throughout the world, but for what purpose? What we call as national interest, the interest and welfare of the empire. Now, what did Japan do? This is just a proclamation. Everybody took a vote. We all take a vote. We are all quite familiar with it, particularly those who are in the military. We are very, we have a vote-taking ceremony for everything, right from our commissioning. But then the oath has to be translated into practice. So how did the Meiji Emperor go about translating into practice? In 1868, after the nation took this oath, 5,000 brilliant young men and women of Japan were picked up. the Japanese government completely funded everything that was required, and these 5,000 children, students, were sent across the known world then. The known world was Europe and America. Their task was very simple. They are to study and master every subject under the sun, from literature to technology, from shipbuilding to whatever, everything, engineering, medicine, every single knowledge under the sun. These 5,000 people were tasked to learn, to master, and return to Japan and set up industries, businesses, open colleges, universities, teach, promote research, do everything that was required to promote the welfare of the empire. These 5,000 people that were sent became the seed from which Japanese technological and expertise in other fields grew. This is how Japan went about building itself. Coming to China, Emperor Tongzhi, who ruled from 1856 to 1875, we all know that in 1840, now our President Xi Jinping is very fond of recalling those 100 years of shame. We all know that the Opium Wars commenced in 1839. 1839 to 1841, China suffered. Let's put it in one simple words. But Tongzhi, who was the emperor, who became the emperor subsequently, when the events of that 1839-41 were over, he realized that one of the prime reasons why China suffered the way it suffered during the Opium War was foolish belief in superstitions. Chinese even believed that the British, American, French, German warships, in those days, battleships used to carry cannons, 16 cannons, 32 cannons and all that. But Chinese emperor and his advisors believed that they were superstitious. They believed that ships are firing, cannons. Therefore, they carry fire. What is the enemy of fire? Water. So they sent diviners, people who did black magic under the sea. And inside the water, they prayed for some miracle to happen so that the Western ships could be sunk. Obviously, it didn't work. It didn't work. All this, these are all historical facts. And China learned. They looked back into how they suffered. Okay. In the first point of the war in 1839, Opium War, in one single post, which was very critical, the Chinese lost 6,000 troops in one go. And they were just defeated by 300 Western troops, British troops to be precise. So they studied all this and they realized that it is knowledge and technology which is needed for transforming China. So Tongzhi commissioned a brilliant man who was a graduate of Yale University, USA, by name Yung Wang. He gave him all powers that are required. He said, get knowledge and get technology. And the manner in which Yung Wang went about doing it is exactly the manner in which our Emperor Meiji went about in Japan. He sent people. He sent even tourists. He lavished money. They sent even, women. Everything. They adopted all techniques to get knowledge. And that knowledge was systematically studied. It is a historical fact that at that time itself, China had 13 treatises on war. 13 treatises on war. So under Emperor Tongzhi and Yung Wang, they went about recalibrating those treatises and applying this to the modern era. Their modern era. And they obtained knowledge. That's how China formed, we all know, the Beiyang, fleet and the 4 fleets which China formed. History is different, but history teaches us a lot what to do. And it also teaches us how to avoid those mistakes. Coming to the USA, Franklin Roosevelt, during the Second World War, we know that the innovations, the technological innovations, of course, for destructive purposes, including the atomic bomb, but the technological innovations reach their max. We are all aware of that. But how did that magic happen? Because of one man called Franklin Roosevelt, who was the president of USA, and he had a very good set of people under Dr. Vannevar Bush, okay, as the director of the Office of Research and Development. What did Roosevelt do? Just to give you a simple thing. On November 17th, 1944, Roosevelt wrote to Vannevar Bush. This is the man. Vannevar Bush, Dr. Vannevar Bush was an acclaimed scientist. And again, it's a historical fact that if there is a predecessor to Oppenheimer, then it is Vannevar Bush. In fact, Oppenheimer and Vannevar Bush were very close friends, scientific friends. Right, okay. So Roosevelt wrote to him, asking him about what can be done on these 4 factors. You will find that, like for example, inconsistence with the military security and with the prior approval of the military authorities to make known to the world as soon as possible the contributions which have been made during our war effort to scientific knowledge. What can be done about it? 4 questions. And Vannevar Bush wrote a 157-page reply to President Roosevelt. And one paragraph from that long report, and I strongly urge all the young scholars to please search and download. It's available in United States Department of State website. One single paragraph is very important in Vannevar Bush's report to the president. He said basic research is performed without thought of practical results. This basic research results in general knowledge and understanding of nature and its laws. The general knowledge provides the means of answering a large number of important practical problems, though it may not give a complete specific answer to any one of them. The function of applied research, on the other hand, is to provide such complete answers. The scientist doing basic research may not be at all interested in the practical applications of his work, yet the further progress of industrial development would eventually stagnate if basic research were long neglected. Now, there are 3 important factors in this which are relevant for us to understand the importance of research to national security or any other discipline. First is the basic research, which in research parlance we call as descriptive studies. Descriptive studies study a phenomena as it happened. Like our General Chauhan was saying, I studied Burma campaign. It's a descriptive study because the campaign is already over. It's in the past. Okay, a descriptive study. But that descriptive study is what helps us to go to the next type of study, which we say, he uses the term applied research. In research methodology, we say analytical studies. We apply that knowledge to the current situation, to the future. So we come out with applied studies, that is analytical work. Now, this basic research, which provides the formative knowledge for applying that knowledge to make an analysis of the contemporary or future events, both together result in what we call as applicable knowledge. We all know, I'm with the 2 such distinguished generals on the thing, of course, Comrade Deshmukh also. Perhaps I should not be saying, at least in the Air Force, we used to joke, saying that there are 3 types of officers. 1, like the back of his hand. number so-and-so, line number so-and-so, tong-tong. Second type of officer, he knows nothing about the regulations, but give him a task, it'll be done. Close your eyes, but it'll be done. But there is a third type of officer who is more valuable and who is very rare. He knows, he has the knowledge, and he knows where and how to apply it to get the results. So he will get the result also. The third category is a very rare phenomenon, but there are many officers like that. So in this thing, we used to say applicable knowledge. This applicable knowledge is what we should obtain through our endeavor for research. We all know that policy making or strategy, development of strategy requires three elements. The academia, that means the universities, colleges, whatever you call the academia, and the think tanks. Then we have the private and public industry. Then we have, of course, the armed forces. All development, if you see, like today we are talking about, applying, we are going in for atomic energy, atomic electricity based on atomic power plants, because fossil fuels are generating whatever problems they are generating. But then the whole concept of atomic energy came from one atom bomb. We can argue that E is equal to mc square is what resulted in atom bomb. So it is theory which resulted in some practice, and that practice has led to production of energy today. That's how it is interrelated. But the fact is, it's the military's requirement which actually, phenomenal application. Like when we were serving in the Siachen area, Siachen Leisure area, we used to get a lot of scientists from DRDO and this thing experiment with different type of food that we can consume. So food security or food is also related to this, clothing, everything. The military needs everything, and everything can be applied for peaceful purposes. But these three agencies cumulatively contributing to policy and strategy need support. Some of them can be government sponsored, some of them can be privately sponsored, some of them can be a partnership between these two, but all of them require money. And that is where one of the critical problems as far as India is concerned is there. Like we have government, we have ministries and departments, we have labs and institutions, we have think tanks and independent researchers also. But look at India. India spends just 65 billion, which is just 0.7% of its GDP on research and development. USA spends a whopping 665 billion. These figures are as of 2022. China spends 556 billion. What do we spend? We are talking about Atmanirbharta. Where will Atmanirbharta happen without money? And it will happen only when there is substantial research and a focus and commitment for institutions which are providing substantial research. So this is one major challenge area which we'll talk about again. Okay. All over, all over the world, think tanks play a critical role because they are either, most of them are either semi-independent or independent. Okay. Few are, of course, government sponsored. In USA, bulk of them are government sponsored. Okay. But all over the world, think tanks provide much needed fillip to promotion of research. World over, it is estimated as of 2022 that it's a study, actual study, 11,175 think tanks are there world over, out of which India has just 612. And out of this 612, we have only 19, which have some kind of a standing across the world. They have a world ranking. Whereas China has 240 of them. Some 1,500 and some 42 institutions in USA are, with the world rank, leading from Brookings institutions and all those people whom we have heard of. Okay, where do we stand? We stand here. In terms of numbers, we are quite high, but in terms of standing, That is because of the quality of our output. Now, what happens to the quality of output? University of Pennsylvania survey in 2021, which came out with the report came in 2022, which surveyed 11,000 out of 11,175. They surveyed 11,000 think tanks and broke them down into categories. They found that there are 7 categories in which these think tanks can be placed. And in USA, they found that 62% of the funding out of that 665 billion, that's 665 billion, 62% of the funding for the think tanks for research, whether it was technology or history, does not matter, but 62% of the funding came from government. 35% came from industry, obviously related to technological and other environment and medicine and all those. 3% only came from individual donors, which are rich people. Fine. Political research, they found, is the rising trend among the, what is political research? Not just politics. It is the question of governance, which means strategy, which includes military strategy, economic strategy, social strategy, whatever strategy. Okay, so that is an increasing trend, but the funding came majorly from government. Okay. And in these 7 categories, just look at China, for example. Okay. Way back in 1949, I mean, just 1950, when 1949 China became China, PRC. And in 1950, the Prime Minister, Zhou Enlai, whom we are all familiar with, Hindi Chini Bye Bye, that hero of that story. Okay, he introduced what was called as 4 modernizations. These 4 modernizations were strengthen the fields of agriculture, industry, defense, science and technology in China. What is to be noted and a lesson for us actually is Zhou Enlai is dead and gone. After that, Mao died and a lot of people are dead and gone. But even today, like for example, Deng Xiaoping, who came later in 1980, in the late 80s, he became the president of PRC. He continued this 4 modernization programs and slightly adopted them for the changes that were taking in the world, especially in defense and science and technology. Since 2000, China has followed, it has always followed this, but from 2000, we find that China has sent 5.2 million students to study abroad. But the beauty is, these students, bulk of them are funded by the Chinese government. My son studied in Canada, he stays in Canada. His classmate, Chinese, you know what is the type of money that we have to spend for supporting our children who are studying abroad. But his Chinese classmate got every single penny from his government. 2 years of study, my son started working outside. This fellow completed his studies, took his degree, made his contacts, went back to China. Bulk of this 5.2 million students who study abroad, they come back. Same old model, please remember the historical example. And they promote R&D in all areas, whether it is in industry, whether it is in IT, whether it is in tourism, whether it is in teaching, everywhere. So the model is very simple. It's a historically tested and proven model. And the areas in which we are finding that, the research, the think tanks, the students who are going abroad in all these countries, we find that they are all focused on these areas. And these are areas which we know, each one of them is critical to what we call as national interest, irrespective of which nation it is. They are critical. And what opportunities or what challenges do we have? Okay. We have come out with a new education policy 2022. Very good changes have been brought in. No policy is perfect, There may be some shortcomings in that policy also, but in terms of, like promoting NIRF rankings, in terms of promoting research, all those kind of things, the NEP seems to have very clear objectives. Fantastic. But then the question is, how do we integrate academia and industry? To integrate, we need funding. And with just 0.7% of our GDP on R&D, can we really do it? Challenge. Answer is there only. The challenge itself, the answer is there, and all of us know what the second, challenge, which is also an opportunity, is our bureaucratic approach, both within and outside. Do not read the term bureaucrat as IAS, IPS only. We are all bureaucrats because we are the products of a colonial empire. So we are, being top down, adopting a top down approach comes naturally to us. The boss is always right. You can't argue with it. So this bureaucratic approach, especially our belief in top down, all knowledge rests only with the people who are at the top. Fine. But it's a challenge. We must recognize that we need to promote people who are worthy of promoting, who are capable of original, research and ideas, give them opportunities, give them the space, and germinate those thoughts and see how we can use them. Because we have the wisdom at the top, we have the wisdom. What we need is information. What we need is a theory. What we need is a formula. What we need is a way out. So let it germinate. That approach, how do we change? Again, it's a challenge as well as an opportunity. How do we integrate universities and think tanks in national policy making and strategic planning? For the past 15, 20 years, we are all aware that National Defense University has been talked about. Periodically, we find one odd, newspaper item. That's it. What do we lack? We all know the answer. I don't have to give the answer. But should we really go full hog and formulate a National Defense University and make it function so that a multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach to all strategic issues can be obtained? What we need is knowledge. We need knowledge. Decision makers are already there. We have exceptionally good leaders, but we have to provide them. So can NDU be the change? How do we make it happen? Again, the answer is there only in the challenge. Fostering talent and allowing it to grow. I hope all of you must have seen the recent one movie called Pipa. 1971 war, that Russian T-96. I'm sure General Bhatia sir must have seen them in the Northeast, or Chauhan sir also. Okay. That one youngster is given that young lieutenant is given one task by his boss. He says, instead of 2, I want 3 people inside that Pipa. He improvises. And 41 Cav changed the course of the war that all of us know. We have to give credit where it is due. And all because one youngster who could tamper with this thing and come out with a modification. It's a classical story because it challenges us to think the kind of talent that we have to identify and the kind of talent that we have to promote. That is research and applicable knowledge. We have many institutions. We have NDC, we have COR, we have Army War College, we have DSSC, we have CDM, we have fantastic institutions. Pride of the nation, there's no doubt. But what is the quality of the output, research value of the output from these institutions? Why I'm asking this question, the second part of the question will be in the next slide. That is the last slide, incidentally. Okay. Why? Because it's not sufficient. Let's see what is needed to be studied, discussed, and acted upon within the confines of, let's say, the war room. Must remain there. But the war room itself needs knowledge. That knowledge can only come from these institutions. And therefore, there must be an open kind of a publication avenue where the faculty and the students are encouraged to not only do their, I'm aware, I mean, all of us are aware that they produce dissertations, but those dissertations remain within that institution. Some of them, which need not get classified, must be available for debate in the academic community, because there are inputs which are available here from history, from geography, from sociology, from technology inputs. They can be married, and that is how we grow our knowledge. So what kind of debate and what kind of avenues can we come out with? Question, of course, it has its own answers. Funding, I already talked about it. Okay, but one definite recommendation which I would like to, because this government, particularly in the last 5 years, 6 years, have come very clearly and very loud on CSR, corporate social responsibility. What is greater than the responsibility to fund and promote knowledge? Why can't industries do it? Why can't Ambanis and Adanis and Kaitans and Bajaj and Tatas? Then of course, Tatas have got TAFR, of course. But why can't the government integrate this? Okay, instead of spending it on some water supply scheme, by all means, please do it. How about funding research institutions? How about funding for research? We'll give you tax exemption. Why can't we do it? Because the amount of money that comes in the CSR bracket is colossal. We have Commodore Deshmukh, who's part of the corporate world. I'm sure he knows what I'm talking about. All of us know. It's colossal. Why can't it be used? We don't have to depend on government treasury to give out the checks. There is money available. So how about using it? Again, food for thought, it's a challenge and it's an opportunity. And the last of my slides, as I mentioned, I will just go down to the bottom first. The US Naval War College, if you go to their website, I've just taken only one example. If you go to their website, you will find publications. And in that publications, you will find faculty publications and those who undergo course, their publications. In between October to December is just, today is 16th. In these 2.5 months, there are 15 research papers. 15. I have checked out IDSA just for one monograph. One. That is a comparison. It's a question and it's a challenge and it's an answer also. We need to open up. And all of us, with the two distinguished generals and the Commodore here, we all know that this Ladislas Farrago's pattern, Ordeal and Triumph, this book, 19 Stars by Edgar Purveyor, Follow Me, 2 volumes actually, by Major General Red Newman, and Dwight Eisenhower's Crusade in Europe, and of course our dear Clausewitz, whom we have to study in our IMA, AFA, Naval Academy upwards all the time. Don't we have any? We can say Arthashastra. Yeah, fine, good. But do we study? The Army has recently started an initiative called Project Udbhav. Fine, we are waiting. It's an excellent initiative. But we are 75 years old as a nation. It's always good to start late. But then if we are starting late, we have to hasten our pace. A normal march will not do. A quick march will not do. Maybe a double march also will not do. You have to think of something faster than 120 paces. So therefore, we need to look at all this, and these can only come from the involvement of the academia and the think tanks, where a proper grooming in research methodology is given. Even the institutions, our DSSC or NDC, they must call experts from outside to teach research methodology. The context has changed. It's not good enough to write in that same service pattern anymore, though it is good. But we need to evolve there also. We need to apply research methodology in order to find better answers, in order to, seek and produce better knowledge. So these are all some points which I thought I must share, which is pertaining to this. Just showing one slide. Of course, that was the last slide. In the world, these 5 are considered to be the topmost experts on China. You won't find an Indian name. All over the world, there are 217 sinologists. 217. Out of that, only 7 are Indian. Only 7. China is our biggest enemy. China is our biggest challenge. China is the biggest contender. We all know. All other thoughts on China are well known to all of us. But a country like this, which is sharing a border and permanently engaged in conflict with China, can it afford to have just 7 sinologists? It's a question. The answer is in research. And with that, I think I will end this thing. I do not know whether I have posed more questions than I should be answering, but I could not do, and I did not have the heart to attempt much of an answer because I do not know the answers. Okay. It's as simple as that. With that, thank you, Deshmukh sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Yashas. Bhatia sir, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. Though you have been very modest in saying that you have brought out more questions than answers, believe you me, your presentation was an eye-opener for us. In those questions itself, you have given us so many answers that at the end of it, if we do not take note of those answers and if we do not act on them, we will be, as we say in a normal language, we will be shooting ourselves in the foot. Time has come to really take note of the requirement of the quality research to be done, its funding. Just to add 1 or 2 points, I think so the countries which you have mentioned, therein the decision makers, or rather I should say the lawmakers, they have a specific qualification to become a lawmaker. Unless we learn to choose lawmakers who are educated, who understand the changing polity of the world, and we put decision-making power into the hands of the meritocracy, it's going to be a bit difficult. That's where the basic problem lies in this thing. The second problem which you brought out, the new education policy. We are very good in bringing the policies. Today, new education policy, tomorrow it will be intelligent new education policy, then artificial intelligence policy. But the question is, who is going to implement it? Unless we find the implementers, that problem is going to be there. Thirdly, I personally feel that, as you put it very rightly, there is no dearth of funds. When people say, where is the money? I also feel that pinch. There is ample money available, but we have to channelize that money through a proper channel to a proper research which needs to be done. I fully understand the problems what we have, our demography. While we need to bring up the people who are disadvantaged in our country, obviously that's a need. There's no denial of that. But simultaneously, we have to dovetail with the policy of rewarding the meritocracy. That's very critical and important. And yes, as an Indic Researchers Forum, it's absolutely important. General Chauhan also brought out the time, Group Captain Shrivans also said, we really need to hold a workshop on the vulnerabilities. Now, whether military vulnerabilities, economic vulnerabilities, or the educational vulnerabilities. We need to have that series of talks and we need to come out with the recommendations. Let the think tanks really start putting this into writing. So that is my personal recommendation. Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan, for your very elucidated talk. We are really honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, coming back to the most equally important facet of today's function or rather event is the presentation which is going to be made in the next 20-25 minutes by Mr. Yashash Arya, who is the founding member of this particular think tank. Yashash, let me congratulate you. Within a short span of time, you have been able to bring this forum today to such a forum that you have become an example for others to emulate. The quality of seminars which have been held, the quality of the research which has been done, has been promoted, is phenomenal. And I acknowledge that we have mentors like General Bhatia, General Chauhan, whose knowledge and the guidance has really allowed us to go onto the path where we are going. But as we say, there are miles to go before we sleep. And I'm sure you will apply your mind to deliver something tangible to this nation so that it becomes a great posterity for us. Yashash will be covering his talk. He will be giving us the vision of the Indic Researchers Forum, what it is, and then he will also give us an outline for what is going to be the publication about and how it came about. Before I hand over the floor to him, I have the honor of introducing Yashash very briefly. As I said, he is the founder member of this particular security think tank, Indic Researchers Forum, and he is the managing director of this particular forum. He is almost a single-handed army, I know that, but the amount of credible job he has done absolutely deserves kudos. Prior to his current assignment, he also worked on the counter-terrorism related projects. From December, he is quite knowledgeable. The way he has steered this particular forum really deserves a word of praise. Thank you, Yashash, and it's an honor for all of us to be associated with Indic Forum. The floor is yours. Kindly give us the vision for the Indic Researchers Forum and what is our publication is going to be all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deshmukh sir, for the kind introduction. It is an honor to have such esteemed gifts for the launch of the inaugural edition of the 2.5 Front publication. I'm also grateful to Bhatia sir, Shaukin Chauhan sir, and Srinivasan sir for accepting the invitation as well as for their, as usual, excellent presentations. I also want to congratulate everyone on the anniversary of Vijay Diwas. Since Satya has already briefly introduced our organization, so I'll directly jump into the presentation. Here I'll be talking about what IRF's understanding of 2.5 Front challenges are, and what we have done so far and what we intend to do in the future. The future editions of this publication would be based on the idea which I shall be presenting today. And I'll be a bit honest, I will present some provocative ideas, so kindly bear with that. I'll directly start with the Pakistan challenge. I'll be quoting certain chapters from Indian history to basically understand what the problem of Pakistan is all about. So basically, when I talk about Pakistan, there are two viewpoints in the academic discussion. One is the stabilized approach, other is the destabilized approach. So what I mean by stabilized approach is that many security experts and scholars believe that a weak and unstable Pakistan would be detrimental for the peace and stability of the region, including India. So therefore, we must ensure that Pakistan should not fall apart. And other is another viewpoint that says that a balkanized and a weak Pakistan is in India's best interest. Whenever Pakistan has been destabilized, India is at relative peace, and whenever Pakistan is at peace, India has been under attack. So I'll present this graph. So this chart, you can see it refers to the Islamic terror attacks in India. It does not include Jammu and Kashmir. So you can see that there has been a decline in number of terror attacks post 2008, and after 2014, there has been a very drastic dip in the number of terror attacks. One obvious reason is that the current political dispensation is more seriously committed to national security. But there is also an interesting fact. And then you have this data of Kashmir. You can see that there is some sort of similarity. Also in Kashmir, the terror attacks have been in decline after probably 2008 and 9. So one very interesting fact that I came across, in fact, an interesting observation is that there has been a rapid increase in number of terror attacks in India when there has been a rapid decrease in number of terror attacks in India when there has been an increase in number of terror attacks, specifically after the creation of Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. So this is a graph which tells about that. If you can see that after 2007 and 8, there has been a rapid increase in the spending of war on terror by Pakistan. So this is the same time when India has seen a decline in terrorism. So, well, all I can say is that to some extent, this graph does agree with the statement that when Pakistan has been under attack, India has been at relative peace. So with this, I'll jump on to Pakistan's war on terror and what the idea of Pashtunistan is. As sir has already mentioned that I am closely working with the PTM leadership, and I certainly believe that this is one area that we have to sincerely focus. So back in 2007, there was a raid at Lal Masjid, which is located in Islamabad. So most of the students of this masjid were from the Pashtun tribal areas, and they were actually running a parallel government which involved detaining individuals, running Sharia courts, which basically undermined the authority of Pakistan state. So the president of that time, General Musharraf, had ordered an operation which had almost killed students between 100 to 1,000. So this was one very big factor that can be considered for the creation of Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. So this is one picture where the militants were armed. Now, what was the response of TTP with respect to the Lal Masjid incident? So there were certain terror attacks that TTP had conducted. The very first involved the kidnapping of Pakistan's ambassador to Afghanistan, Tariq Azizuddin. Then Lieutenant General Ahmed Beg, who was the senior most Pakistan army official who had been killed in a terror attack. Then if anyone follows cricket, they would very well be aware of that fact that Sri Lankan cricket team was attacked in 2009. Then TTP militants had also attacked GHQ Rawalpindi, and then this very infamous army public school attack, which killed about 132 children. In fact, today is the 9th anniversary of army public school attack by TTP. And then almost on, monthly basis or weekly basis, we can see that soldiers in Pakistan Army are being captured and beheaded by TTP terrorists. So in response to this, what Pakistan Army did was they launched 4 major operations: Operation Rah-e-Rast in 2009, Operation Rah-e-Najat again 2009, Operation Zarb-e-Azm, and Operation Raat-ul-Fasad. So this is an attack on Sri Lankan cricket team. Now, what happened was, though these operations were to some extent successful in curbing the threat of TTP, but what it led was that it had displaced about 2.5 million people during Operation Rah-e-Rast, around 1 million during Rah-e-Najat, and Operation Zarb-e-Azm, around 1 million people were internally displaced in Pakistan. So these were the Pashtun people. So apart from that, there was damage to life and property due to the air and drone strikes. And most importantly, due to the landmines which were placed by the Pakistan Army to counter the TTP threat, there have been reports almost on weekly basis that people have been killed due to landmines. So again, in 2021, a group of lawyers in Peshawar High Court had filed a petition saying that around 800 people were killed only in South Waziristan for about 178 mine blasts over the years. So according to Manzoor Pashtun, who is currently heading the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, he said that 30,000 Pashtuns have gone missing. So there is also a case of enforced disappearances. So what this has led is that it has led to anger and discontent among the Pashtun people. So what I believe that to understand this region, PTM is probably the key. I'll just give a brief about what PTM is all about. PTM is a peaceful civil human rights movement based in Pashtun. The leader of the movement is Manzoor Pashtun. It draws its ideology from Bacha Khan, and those who are familiar with Indian history, they would know that Bacha Khan was also called as Frontier Gandhi. So there was this triggering point when Naqibullah Masood, who was a 23-year-old aspiring Pashtun model, he was killed in an extrajudicial killing by SSP Rao Anwar, which became a big issue. He was also a social media celebrity. So there are few slogans of PTM, which I think it is important to understand in the current context what PTM has been able to achieve in these years. So there is a statement, "Ye jo dehshat gardi hai, iske piche vardi hai." and Da Sangha Azadi Da. So if any one of you has been following the protest by PTI members after the arrest of Imran Khan, they would have definitely heard these two slogans being raised by the PTI supporters. So, this has been the impact of PTM, that a movement which is not even covered in the mainstream media is garnering support from, not support I'll say, but it has been gaining popularity. Now, this statement, La Ro Bar Yo Afghan, which means Pashtuns of lowland of Pakistan and highlands of Afghanistan are same. This is seen as the most problematic slogan by the Pakistani establishment. And they certainly believe that this is some sort of Pashtun nationalism. So Pashtun nationalism, by the way, is a long cherished dream of Pashtuns across the border to reunite the Pashtun land of Pakistan and Afghanistan, which was divided after the Durand Line Agreement. Mind you, no Afghan ruler, whether it was the monarchy, whether it was the communist government, or whether it is the terror regime of Taliban, they have ever recognized the Durand Line. Now, this is one of the jalsas of PTM, led by Manzoor Pashtun. And what we at IRF have done is that for our very first conference, in fact, I have been personally engaging with them, as I had informed earlier. We had the honor to have Sayyid Anwar Dawar, who is currently serving as the core committee member of PTM in Pakistan, for our very first conference. In fact, back in August 2021, when we had organized a conference on fall of Kabul, so Sayyid Anwar Dawar had agreed to join us, despite the threats that he would have faced because he had joined an Indian platform. And this is probably the only time that someone from PTM Pakistan has joined an Indian platform. I don't know whether it is going to happen in future. I have no idea. Then, so I certainly believe that this area has a huge impact, not only for Pakistan, but also for India. This region has seen many invasions. If you refer to the history books of India, Northwest Frontier Province has been an issue where all of our invasions have taken place through this place. And in fact, Dr. Ambedkar has also mentioned about this in his book, Pakistan or Partition of India. I think this is a very good book if someone is interested in understanding what has been the psyche of Muslim League and all the leaders at that point of time. I think this is a very good book that you can refer to. Then what is Pakistan's Pashtun challenge? Why we are very much interested in this area? Why not Balochistan? Why specifically Pashtun area? For one obvious reason is that I believe that Balochistan is also bordering with Iran, and the population is not that significant that can actually undermine the authority of Pakistan state. But when it comes to the Pashtun challenge, so Pakistan's biggest fear is that a strong government in Kabul would undo the Durand Line. In fact, in 1946 elections, which was seen as a verdict for the partition of India, it was only Northwest Frontier Province where the Muslim League had failed to achieve majority, and all other regions of undivided India, which were Muslim dominated, Muslim League was easily able to win elections. So in fact, the chief minister of this particular government in 1946 was Khan Abdul Jabbar Khan, who happens to be the elder brother of Bacha Khan. So why Pakistan is very skeptical about is that since PTM draws its ideology from the ideas of Bacha Khan, they see that PTM is basically taking over the charge of the movement of independent Pashtunistan. Then another issue that Pakistan confronts is the terror of TTP, Islamic State, Khorasan Province, Al-Qaeda in Indian subcontinent. All these have safe haven in Afghanistan and this region. So what I certainly believe is that in order to counter Pakistan as a traditional security threat, it should be imperative for us to understand what is the complexity of the region, what are the parties and members involved, and importance not only for the Pakistan-Afghanistan region, but also for India. Now, is understanding Pakistan as a traditional security state enough? I mean, even if we are able to just imagine, I mean, I don't think that India has to do anything. The self-destructive path in which Pakistan is onto, I think that very soon they will have 3-4 different countries. I mean, we already have got Bangladesh. We may in the future have independent Bangladesh. I mean, I'm just assuming it. But the point is, will it really solve India's challenge? I mean, having an independent Bangladesh, having an independent Pashtunistan, having an independent Balochistan, will it really solve any problem that India is confronting now. In my limited understanding, I certainly believe that this is not going to be the case. So I have mentioned this point. The idea of Pakistan is something that we need to focus on. It is not that Pakistan, we are only focusing Pakistan as a traditional security state, but Pakistan is also an ideology. This idea of Pakistan goes beyond the border of Pakistan and has a very firm grip over Indian subcontinent. So there is this very popular political slogan which is still very common in Pakistan. Pakistan ka matlab kya? La illa illallah, meaning that there is no God only but Allah. And now, if I ask someone that what has been the causes of partition of this country, those who are well read, they would probably point out to Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, his Aligarh school of thought. But I think we need to go back on this, and we need to understand what has been the source, or what has been the contribution of Wahhabi movement of the 18th century. So it was a trio of Shah Waliullah Dehlvi, Haji Shariatullah, and Sayyid Ahmad Barelvi who laid the foundation of the idea of Pakistan. They did not coin the term Pakistan, but the idea, the basic concept was very much in place, and modern day doctrine jihad, which ultimately led to the partition of India. So if we talk about the Indian subcontinent, there are basically 5 maslak, which basically refers to school of Islamic thought in Indian subcontinent. Out of this 5, one is of Shia tradition, and out of the other 4 are basically Deobandi, Barelvi, Ahle Hadith, and Jamaat Islami. So all these 4 Sunni maslaks, Deobandi, Barelvi, Ahle Hadith, and Jamaat Islami, have been inspired by the work of Shah Waliullah Dehlvi and also Sayyid Ahmad Barelvi. So this is a chart that I have prepared. So if anyone is interested in this subject, they can understand that how evolution of Islamic revivalism took place in India, and how these forms of Wahhabism are actually spread even till today. So I'll briefly touch upon Shah Waliullah Dehlvi. So he was basically an Islamic scholar who was born during the declining era of Mughal Empire, and which saw the subsequent loss of political power to Sikhs, Jat, Marathas, and Britishers. He was the progenitor of Islamic revivalism in Indian subcontinent. Then, for instance, I'll just quote few of his statements which we can probably correlate with the idea of Pakistan. So he, in his Islamic proposal to Mughal King Ahmad Shah Bahadur, he had requested the king to issue stern directives in all Islamic towns to prohibit religious ceremonies of the infidels, such as holy and practicing ritual bath in Ganga. So recently, there is this very, I just came across this picture. So back in 2022, I guess, or 23, there was this directive issued by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, which had said that that they need to keep a distance from celebrating Hindu festivals of Holi on campuses. And then again, on the right-hand side, there is this picture of Durga Puja celebrations attacked by Islamists in Bangladesh. It happens probably, I think after 2013, it happens almost after every year. So I think this is something that we can correlate how the ideas of Shah Waliullah Dehlvi is still, inspiring these Pakistan state. Now, Syed Ahmad Khan, who happens to be a student of Madrasa-e-Rahmiya. Madrasa-e-Rahmiya was basically Islamic seminary that was founded by Shah Waliullah Dehlvi's father, and also he also taught there. So Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was also a product of this seminary. Then there is another point that jihad, he believes that jihad is the cornerstone of all social political equilibrium, and he believed that Ghazni was probably the greatest Islamic ruler for successfully launching jihad in North India. And by the way, with respect to Shah Waliullah Dehlvi, I have specifically referred to the works of Qiyamuddin Ahmad, who is considered as an authority of Wahhabism in India. There is this book, I think it is very much available openly. So if anyone is interested, they can refer to that. And by the way, he painted a very patriotic image of Wahhabism, that Wahhabism was actually meant to fight the Britishers. It was an anti-colonial struggle. Well, I basically disagree on this, because I certainly believe that we have to, at the end of the day, understand what were the objectives of this movement, what were the end results that they wanted to achieve. Was it independence of all, or was it establishing an Islamic caliphate? I think the answer is very much there in the book. So second person is Syed Ahmad Barelvi, and I am sure that Bhatia sir, since he had been there in Kashmir, so I think he would have definitely heard his name. So he was an Islamic preacher and jihadi who was born in 1786 in Uttar Pradesh. He was basically the progenitor of jihad in modern Indian subcontinent. And in fact, he had fought the famous Sikh against the Sikhs in the Battle of Balakot in 1831, where he was defeated and killed by the forces of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So Aisha Jalal, who is a Pakistani author, there is this very good book that people who want to understand jihad in South Asia, they can refer to Partitions of Allah, Jihad in South Asia. So she noted this point that to this day, Balakot, where the Barelvi lies buried, is a spot that has been greatly revered by militants in contemporary Pakistan, some of whom have set up training camps near Balakot. If anyone remembers the Jabba Top airstrike, so they'll definitely recall the Balakot. So she further notes that Balakot's association with the idea and practice of jihad in South Asia was reinforced in 1990s when militants group set up training camps in its environment to prepare for the campaign against Indian security. Then again, what happened after Syed Ahmad Barelvi, it was the Ali brothers, not to confuse with the Ali brothers of Khilafat movement. They were a different set of Ali brothers, so they took forward the legacy. Then the Britishers realized about the threat of Wahhabi movement. They started tracking it down, and they were the first one who brought the sedition law to punish the Wahhabi network. And after the British cracked down on Wahhabis, the sympathizers of the cause decided to launch their own independent movement in order to avoid being labeled as the traitors by the colonial government. So again, this is a chart, probably someone may be able to understand it more in a much better way. And with this, I'll go back to these four Islamic movements, Ahle Hadith, Barelvi, Deobandi, Jamaat Islami, which still holds a very firm grip over Indian subcontinent. It may be a bit controversial, but I think it is important to understand what has been the contribution of these movements prior to the independence as well as post-independence. So Ahle Hadith movement was basically, I'll not get into the details because it will take a lot of time. So it is a Salafi movement, which it is basically the subcontinent version of the Salafi movement. And if you see that two major terrorist outfits, that is Lashkar-e-Taiba as well as Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, traces its ideology from Ahle Hadith movement. Then again, Deobandi, I'll not get into this detail. Deoband is a town in Uttar Pradesh. So Tablighi Jamaat has its roots in Deobandi tradition. Although it now operates independently, but still it maintains a very close tie with Deobandi ulama. Terror outfits like Taliban and Jaish-e-Mohammed also derives their ideology from Deobandi tradition. So you can see recently what happened was that Saudi Arabia had banned Tablighi Jamaat, saying that it is one of the gateway to terrorism. And immediately we can see that Darul Uloom Deoband, which is in India, Uttar Pradesh, it came in defense of Tablighi Jamaat. So we can see the close relations operating. Then this is another chart which talks about the evolution of Deoband. So first we had JUH, then after partition you had JUIP, the Jamiyat Ulema-e-Islami Pak, and it further got divided into JUIF, which is currently led by Maulana Fazlur Rahman, who is also a patron of Jaish-e-Mohammed, and he has, by the way, also served as the chairman of the ruling alliance of Pakistan. Recently he was serving, and in fact some experts are also claiming that there are chances that he might even become the president of Pakistan. Only time will tell. And then second you have JUIS, which was led by Maulana Samiul Haq. He was also called the father of Taliban. Now again, Barelvi movement, I'll simply point out to the fact that Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, which is an Islamist extremist political party, belongs to the Barelvi school of thought. So this is one this was one movement I think all of you would remember, that this infamous Charlie Hebdo controversial cartoon drawn. So in Pakistan, there were widespread violent protests. So it was led by TLP. Now, coming to the case of Bangladesh, I think I'll explain the aspect of Jamaat-e-Islami from the case of Bangladesh. So I'll not cover the ideological aspects of Maulana Maududi. I think it is very much, otherwise it will become a presentation of more than 2 hours. So I'll rather restrict myself on the practical approach of Jamaat-e-Islami in today's time. So this picture that you see on the left is the picture which was from the recently concluded Cricket World Cup, which unfortunately we lost. And there was large mass screenings of the final match between India and Australia in Bangladesh. And you could see that people were passionately cheering for India's defeat in Bangladesh. And if you hear the interviews after this match, you could easily sense out the anti-India sentiments in this country. And on the right, you'll see this picture is of the massive rally of Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh. In fact, as we celebrate the Vijay Diwas today, let us not forget the genocide of the innocent millions of Bangladeshis who were killed by Pakistan army. And it was Jamaat-e-Islami who was the genocide enabler at that point of time. So it is, I mean, the funny part over here is, funny part or probably the concerning part over here is that Jamaat-e-Islami today is probably one of the most political party in Bangladesh after Awami League and BNP. And this is something that we need to understand, that on one hand, we had India, which played the most crucial role in helping the liberation of the country, which is, I don't know, for some reason is considered in a very negative way. And India is seen as a negative force. On the other hand, a party that was responsible for the genocide of innocent Bangladeshis is hailed as a hero in Bangladesh. So we had back in 2022, we had this International Counterterrorism Conference where we invited Dr. Mubashir Hasan, who is an expert on radicalization in Bangladesh. He mentioned that 75% of the arrested militants in Bangladesh were from middle and upper middle class families. Only 94% of them were between the age of 18 to 40. And majority of them studied in secular institutes and were engineers, businessmen, teachers, and IT experts. They hailed from family backgrounds where their fathers were either in military, judiciary, either politicians or high-ranking government officials. There is a strong this is his statement that I'm quoting, there is a strong anti-Indian, anti-Hindu sentiment since 2013. Every year, Hindus are attacked in various parts of Bangladesh. So Jamaat-e-Islami is basically the torchbearer of this radicalization. It has promoted various madrasas, and in fact, all major terrorist outfits like Harkatul Jihad al-Islami is considered Harkatul Jihad Islami, and which is considered as the arm of Al-Qaeda in Bangladesh. Then we had JMB, Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, closely affiliated with Lashkar, and then Neo JMB, which is closely associated with ISIS. They all enjoy the patronage of Islamic State or Jamaat-e-Islami as well as BNP. Now, Jamaat-e-Islami, there is one interesting point I think that we all need to be aware of, this fact that Jamaat-e-Islami has close ties with PFI and Sunni, and in fact, when PFI was banned, then it was Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, and I repeat, Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, which had protested against the ban. So there you can see, this was the report of Ministry of Home Affairs that JMB was planning a jihadi network in South India, and then you find Jamaat-e-Islami Hind president. He had given a proper statement where he categorically rejected the ban on Popular Front of India, PFI. Now, we had the honor of inviting Dr. Anshuman Behra, who had joined us for this Jihad conference. He has been studying Bangladesh for more than 12-13 years. So he said that Jamaat-e-Islami Hind should not be considered different from PFI. In fact, PFI is registered in Delhi under the banner of Jamaat. So I was also not aware of this fact. So basically, what my conclusion from this Pakistan front is that the idea of Pakistan can be defined as a fascist ideology which has its roots in Wahhabi movement. The spawns of Wahhabi movement, who were inspired by the teachings of Shah Waliullah Dehlvi, took forward the legacy of anti-Hindu, anti-Shia, and anti-Ahmadiyya mindset. It still pushes for two-nation theory. The cornerstone of this ideology is violent jihad and Ghazwa-e-Hind, or Islamization of subcontinent. So, as I've said earlier, in order to counter Pakistan as a traditional security threat, the focus should be on Pashtunistan. And if we really want to understand the threat of Pakistan as an ideology, then we have to look inwards and see these spawns of Wahhabism and what are being taught in all these seminaries. So, I think this is the two-way approach which Indic Researchers Forum would agree to, and we would go ahead with this approach when understanding Pakistan. Now, this is a very good representation. So recently, Ahmadiyyas are not Muslims. This was a statement given by Jamiyat, which actually backed the statement of Andhra Waqf Board. So Center had actually opposed it. Then you can see in Pakistan, right picture. that in Pakistan, Moses Ahmadiyas are not Muslims. And again, in Bangladesh, we can see that Bangladesh is criticized for failing to protect Ahmadiyya Muslims. So this idea, so-called idea of Pakistan that I am proposing, I think this is very much still evident in all these countries. Now I'll directly jump to the China and internal security front. I think any discussion on China and internal security without having a discussion on artificial intelligence data, I think it's complete waste, and it is going to be catastrophic if we are not going to focus on these aspects. So I certainly believe that, and in fact, China has already been discussed by General Bhatia and General Chauhan sir. So I'll just restrict myself to this aspect of artificial intelligence and data. So I certainly believe that our ability to handle the China and internal security front will solely depend on as to how we perform in the era of technopolar world, or a world order where it is going to be technology dominant. I don't know, technopolar world is a term that is widely accepted, but still I'll go ahead with that. So this is going to define the future of our country. Now you can see these were the four industrial revolutions. So currently we are in the fourth industrial revolution. We have the field of AI, big data, cyber security, and it is not optional, but it is the only way to ensure national security. So there is this report that came up just few days back, in fact. So Meta says that China is trying to stop Chinese accounts from swaying Indian and US elections. So the point here is it is not. This is not the bigger problem that China is interfering in our elections, but the bigger problem here is that we have to depend on a tech company to tell us that we are being attacked. So just imagine, as Sir has said, that we need to focus on our vulnerabilities. I think this is probably the biggest vulnerability that we are currently facing. We absolutely have no control over our data, and it is the tech companies who are actually under the control of US government. They are telling us that, okay, look, your account has been compromised, your elections are compromised. China is trying to manipulate your behavior. So next, this is a report that came up. China should break up the Indian Union. This was a statement that was echoed in Chinese think tanks and their publications. So it cannot be published without the approval of the Chinese authority. So you really can understand what China is up to and what problem we are going to face. Now, there is this report by Gateway House of India. It is a think tank which was published in 2020. So before I jump onto that, there was this, the last decade had seen the investments from Chinese companies into India over 5 billion USD in 2018. Alarming are the investments by China's powerful BAT, that stands for Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, in soft power projects in India. That is artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and fintech. That's because PLA and CCP has a symbiotic relation with China's BAT, the makers of strategic domestic and overseas investments. So India had banned, TikTok, if you remember, after the Galwan Valley clash. But was that ban related to understanding that what threat China possesses in terms of data, or was it as a reciprocal effort to what China had done in the border region? I think everyone knows the answer, what has been the thinking behind it. So what Chinese people have been doing, that they now realize that there is restriction on Chinese investment after the Galwan Valley clash. So now they are investing in India through third world countries like, from third countries like Singapore, and Chinese tech firms invest in Indian startups. Since the funds come from a third country, it does not come from a Chinese investment. This was a statement mentioned in AI and Future of Power by Rajiv Malhotra. And still, if we see the number of smartphones that we Indians use, it is still dominated by Chinese hardware. Now, okay, so after today, today we need to realize one fact, that all the critical infrastructure in India is moving towards data-driven technologies. So therefore, countries like USA and China having access to huge database of Indians is going to be the biggest national security threat of the 21st century for India. If we understand it from the geopolitical context, I think we need to realize this fact that India is too big of an elephant that can be tamed by either China or West. They did try in the case of Japan and Israel. I think West was equally successful in that. But India is no Japan, no Israel. We are way too big to be tamed. And they realize this fact that India is an ascending political power, and it not only poses a threat to China, but eventually also to the hegemony of the West. So I think therefore we can see how Khalistani terrorists are finding safe haven in West. If the West can use these Khalistan issue to keep India under the check, then why can't they use our data against us? So, I mean, this is something that I have been telling my colleagues as well, that now imagine a scenario that someone from my generation, I don't know, probably Satya, Argish, or any of the interns might in the coming years, 20, 30 years down the line, will become the prime minister, national security advisor, politicians, bureaucrats in the government, and they all have been, including myself, we all have been using these WhatsApp, personal messaging app, WhatsApp, you talk about Instagram, Facebook, and all these data that we have is in with the American companies. So if we believe that these companies are actually giving all these services for free, I think we are gravely mistaken. These are the apps which are not free. It comes at the cost of our data, which will be in the hands of of the Western countries or the Chinese companies. And just imagine that they will be blackmailing us with what our personal data is. And I certainly believe we all are humans. We are bound to make mistakes. So this is something that we cannot, avoid. So there is this another statement by Rajiv Malhotra sir's book. American primarily owns the software algorithms, databases, and operating platforms. The hardware is mostly Chinese. India is at the mercy of their technologies, and foreign owners of AI and digital platforms have no legal accountability in India. In fact, recently, just 3 days back, European Union has come up with its AI, artificial intelligence law, and India has yet to have a strong, data protection law. So these were some of the conferences related to artificial. This is going to be our approach: artificial intelligence, cyber security, space warfare. This is an area. This is one area that we are going to focus. Most of our research will be focused on this aspect. So we already had Brigadier Ramesh Balan, who had talked about AI and India-Japan cooperation, Jasim Haji, counter-terrorism conference. Then we also had a session on decoding space terrorism. Then we invited Paul Szymanski, who has 48 years of research experience in space warfare. So this is one area that we will be migrating in the coming years. I mean, it will take us time. We have the limited resources, but eventually 5-7 years down the line, this is going to be the core area where we are going to focus as a think tank. So I've been getting a lot of stick for saying this, but I think that this is probably the right platform to say this. So I'll quote Machiavelli here. Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. So I must tell you that I am talking this in the context of international relations and geopolitics. Since I am a realist, I firmly believe in this statement. So there is no concept of morality when it comes to hard power. So if we expect our adversaries to accept that, okay, India, you can peacefully exist with us. So I think we are gravely mistaken. So we need to have this policy of iron fist in velvet gloves. Thus, respect and fear are synonymous to each other in geopolitics. This should be our approach to meet our national security goal. And finally, there is a statement, if I have to briefly talk about what Indic Researchers Forum is, it talks about civilizational security and at the same time statesmanship. So there was one brigadier, I won't name him, he gave me, while having a candid discussion with him, he talked to me about one thing that, Yashish, you need to remodel your thinking as a statesman and not as a political leader. So what he meant by is that a political leader will not look beyond 5 years, but a statesman will have a vision for next 100 years. And this is something which I certainly believe that China has excelled, and we are, our election system or whatever you want to say this, but this is one area that we definitely lack. So this is going to be one of the thought behind the, working of Indic Researchers Forum. And I do hope that I'll continue to gain your support. So with this, I end this presentation. Thank you.
For the presentation. It is absolutely important to understand the geopolitics, as well as it is also important, as General Chauhan also has pointed out, as well as General Bhatia, that we need to look behind the curtains. What are the real movements which are currently going on? Which are the movements as they gain strength are going to affect our own security? Like you pointed out, the Wahhabism and other units which are linked with various countries in and around. And you have laid your idea of the vision. Here only as a little more experienced than you, I would like to suggest that we must put up a policy paper on what exactly the research forum would like to do, which needs to be debated. We do have very experienced people who have gone through the various facets of the life, military, economic, corporate world. And we also have got experienced people who have led India into war and brought victories to us. So I think the white paper should be circulated, debated before we finalize the policies, because that is what will bring the credibility to the forum. It will bring the neutrality to the forum, that the forum operates onto the well thought out procedures and processes, so that whatever recommendation then we put out to the think tanks or the policy makers, they will have a credibility behind them. This is my personal thought. You may think about it. It is now time to say thank you to you, Ashas. And General Sir, basically, I think this is the time to launch our maiden publication. And yes, sir, thank you very much for giving me the honor of being the maiden interview in the first issue of your publication. It is indeed an honor for me. And General Sir, I must say that your foreword is absolutely wonderful. You have captured the genesis and the thought process of the publication in a very few paragraphs. Thank you so very much, sir. Yes, yes, and General Sir, with your permission, I will now hand over the floor to Satya to take it forward, because we will be launching the issue digitally. Satya, it's all yours. Thank you very much.
Let me take the opportunity to compliment Dr. Srinivasan just for an excellent, absolutely very high content presentations. I have latched on to every word spoken, and the two of you absolutely wonderful. It's been a learning process for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Very kind of you to say so, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commodore Deshmukh. Thank you, Yashas, and your team at IRF. It's my honor indeed. I got this opportunity to go through the first. This is the inaugural issue of the IRF Journal, and I must say, firstly, that it's been exceedingly well conceptualized with the right topics, and the researchers have done an excellent job. There's no doubt. I read each and every word of it, and it was quite an eye-opener. And we keep talking about, that we don't have the strategic thought, we don't have the researchers, we don't have this. And I think this is a journal which is in itself proof that when the will is there, we have the capability, and with the capacities, and with the very young people, they come out with such excellent work. Thank you very much indeed. And honor to release this on this digital platform. It's been 2.5 hours right now, and I think this 2.5 hours has really passed fast. I have another one at 8 o'clock, so I'll have to be very short, and I will be very short because there's nothing much to say. We have the three basic chapters in this, which are very well conceptualized and very specific to the tune. We have the first is the China chapter, and China chapter carries an interview which is well captured from Commodore Deshmukh. He's an expert on the Indo-Pacific. He's an expert on maritime security. He's an expert on many other things, including that. And thank you. I'll not like to detail what is given in that, because that'll take a lot of time. So I will just cover the various topics, and you'll pardon me because I have another one at 8 o'clock, and I really got to get off. And then we, in the China chapter, we also have various stakeholders' perspective, which is very there. Normally we talk of the Indian perspective, and we talk of what we need to do, what we expect others to do. But the perspective of various stakeholders is equally important, and that has to be, that perspective has to be factored in into our policy guidelines, our policy discussions, and our policy making. And Achas, I must compliment you for this. That's wonderful. The third one is understanding the border dispute between India and China. I think it's a very well attempted one, because India-China border dispute, the India-China boundary question, is something which many strategists and historians have talked about it, from Mr. Durrani downwards, go over, and you have Mr. Nirupma Roy, who has been the best in China, and the foreign minister talking about it in a book, lovely book, the Fractured Himalayas. So there is there's too much of material actually to research, and but my compliments to I think this has been done by understanding the border dispute by Achal again, Achal Senado, right? No, sorry, Achal Gautam. I'm two artists, right? Okay, Achal Gautam. And my compliments to you for taking out the key issues and bringing it for, in a very easy to understand manner. Not for the it's not for the people who are in know-how, but people who really do not want to understand the basics of it. It was very well done. And data, of course, is the next one. Like Shaz just spoke about data. Data is very important. Data is power. Data is power 5.0. Anyone who controls the data, it controls the people, controls the nation, controls society, controls the individuals. Each one of us who carries a smartphone, and all of us carry smartphones now, has a minimum of 5,000 data points with a smartphone data center. Okay. You may not know yourself, but the data with the data center will know you better. So I think it's been very well covered at cybersecurity also in that. And this is economic, very well conceptualized. Internal security, internal security is very vast subject, very, very vast subject. And we've chosen to be very specific about it, and thank God for it, because internal security can go on and on. And General Chauhan's interview on Manipur, he spoke some of it today. I think it is something which we need to really bite into, go into the depth of the Manipur thing. It can be a very major security issue. So it's not only security; it's also the people. Having served in Manipur, like I was not the DG of Sound, but a commander of Sound Battalion, all right. And when you get to the people, they're the best people we have, honest people, very good people. As a society, they're very good, but they're going wrong somewhere. And that needs to be corrected, because Manipur and Northeast is so far removed from Delhi, we often don't think about it. Whatever happens out there doesn't really impact lives out here. But we have to understand that with what is going on in Manipur now, and also the China-Bhutan boundary talks, China will become an immediate threat to the Siliguri corridor. And the Siliguri corridor connects 8.5 states, 5.5 crore people. And if there is unrest out there, and the Siliguri corridor being threatened, I think that is the major security threat when you talk of internal security. It is not J&K, it is not anyone else, but it is that particular 18 by 22 kilometer corridor and beyond. We also have energy security concern, which is a very energy security, I think, is a major concern. And fortunately, India is doing rather well in renewable energy. I think we have achieved targets which we had set for 2025. We intend achieving target 2030 and 2025. So energy security is something we have actually done reasonably well. This is the next one. My phone has gone off actually. Yeah. After energy security, countering extremism, in sense of radicalization in contemporary India. So radicalization is something. Yes, you covered so much of it. The background to it. Radicalization is the article talks about it very well. And how do we actually beat this? How do we overcome this? Is a problem. We talk about de-radicalization, but the problem of de-radicalization. Why do you want to de-radicalize youth? How do you avoid radicalization in the first instance? That is where I think this article has got its it's relevance, very relevant. After this, we have an incitement terrorism. Now, this again is at the cost of reputation, very interesting. You go to incitement terrorism, what is terrorism all about? People have studied terrorism all over the world. Unfortunately, no one has even come anywhere close to accepting the correct definition of terrorism. Right? No one, no organization, no nation. Every nation got a different, its own definition of terrorism. So terrorism will continue to be there, and terrorism impacts almost all nations in the world today. It's not confined to India. It's not confined to a region. It's not confined. It is. And I'm not talking about the global war on terror we started with because the USA was attacked. I think each and every nation, each and every people is impacted by terrorism in one way or other. Some less, some more. Of course, if you look at the terrorism index, I think India finds itself in the number 7th, 8th place, which I think is incorrect, because when you talk of a population of 1.4 billion and you compare it with a smaller nation, and then you talk only incidents and not, in absolute numbers, and then you place India as a terrorism of 7 to 8, I think it is incorrect. We have done reasonably well in our anti-terrorism operation and counter-terrorism operations, and we should give ourselves a pat for this. We should not always be very critical of ourselves. We should also know what we are doing. A country like ours, which is a vast country, we talk of diversity which is there, and we still have maintained the fiber, the ethos of one nation, and we should also look at the positives. Pakistan chapter. Now, PTM has been very well covered by Ishada. I think this interview, I think, is really worth its weight in gold, coming from the PTM. I think he's a good friend of yours, because he's spoken very frankly on the Durand line and on the Pakistan Army death. The Lashkar-e-Taiba. Well, Lashkar-e-Taiba is going to be there, and it's going to be, holistic picture and global war terror. Lashkar-e-Taiba is a major concern for us, actually, a security challenge, especially in Jammu and Kashmir. We all faced it, and with a lot of experience in this. But the next chapter, I think, is what takes the cake. As I said in my initial comments also, the problem tomorrow is not terrorism so much as drugs, both in Kashmir and in Punjab. And God forbid it spills down to in Rajasthan and Gujarat and beyond. We find drones being used to carry drugs. The army shoots it down, the drone lands. It is what a weapon, the weapon is given to the army as counter-terrorism operation, and the drugs vanish. Right? Today, I think drugs is a very major problem in Kashmir among the youth. And what we need to do is not only drug addiction camps, but awareness. And one of the major things we need to do out there is education and employment generation to overcome the narcotics issues. And Pakistan is going to be, Yasha spoke about it. I had written an article after the 15th August 21 withdrawal of the US forces from Afghanistan. Pakistan rides the Taliban tiger. Right? So Pakistan is suffering today. So drugs will also impact Pakistan. It's not that you can just send it across internally also, and that Pakistan has to be. No, we got to talk about it so people in Pakistan realize that. Indus Water Treaty and Pakistan water security challenges. General Pervez Musharraf had written a dissertation during his army walk while in the US. Pakistan's security challenges, water challenges in the security domain, and I think much of his India policy, and especially on terrorism, was driven by the concept of water security. If you look at the problem in Kashmir, it is because if you have a terrorism issue, if you have an internal security issue in Kashmir, in Jammu and Kashmir, you will not be able to go for projects. And IWT is something which needs to be studied, and we need to find ways to interpret it to our advantage. We have not actually done that. We very shy of touching the IWT. But IWT is one pressure point, one leverages which we have over Pakistan. And the key challenge, like you talk about Pakistan, is for India to change Pakistan's behavior in the mid to long term. We cannot continue with a Pakistan which is a zero-sum game. We cannot continue with destabilized Pakistan. We cannot continue with Pakistan. We're trying to handle one Pakistan. We can't have 4 or 5 Pakistans, right? And you talked about a stable Pakistan and destable Pakistan. So coming to that. So I think one of the major leverages we have is and the water security of Pakistan. 95% of Pakistan's water flows from India. Lower riparian, international stress, all. But today, India is a resurgent nation. It's a responsible nation. we are a growing, global leader now. So we can get away with a lot of things, like the US has been getting away with a lot of things, the Russians are getting away with a lot of things, small England is getting away with a lot of things. But today we are a global leader, and we should have the power to get away with a lot of things like the Chinese. We have to look after national interests. That is what matters most. And thank you very much to all your research team and your interns who have contributed to this. And Yasha, to your team, thank you very much for giving the opportunity to write the forward and to speak on this. Wish you the very best, and we look forward to more of it, because it's high quality in content, it's high quality in research, it's an inaugural issue, and I'm sure the next one will be equally good, if not better. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so very much, sir, for launching the inaugural issue. And yes, sir, let me tell you, we have raised the bar with the first issue, and we have the most difficult task coming ahead of us. That's where I said that we must have white paper, we must deliberate upon, so that we maintain the quality. We should never go on a quantity, because that's the biggest mistake everybody does, and we water down the complete hard work what we have done so far. I'm quite sure about your leadership for the forum and the mentors what we have. We are really blessed to have such mentors there. Let's make use of that. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity of chairing this session. General Bhatia sir, General Chauhan sir, Dr. Srinivasan. It's not an easy task to chair a session which is being graced by the eminent personalities which are more experienced and knowledgeable than what I am. Whatever bit I could do, I have done my bit. Thank you so much for tolerating me. Thank you, Yashash. All the very best. God bless us.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Rigesh, you can